This was an idea that randomly came to me after I played Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Academy, where I saw a Imperial class Star Destroyer in a cutscene. I know for a fact that these two were pretty much arch enemies in a sense, and so I thought, just like with the Venator versus Providence, that I would finally put these two up against each other. Remember that once again fighters and bombers will not be included in this battle. It'll purely be based on ship-to-ship combat, and therefore the fighters will be getting a mention, but be completely insignificant. My reason being is that I've always loved these huge ship battles, and for me, the fighters and bombers kind of make the bigger capital ships seem a bit useless, when, in fact, one fighter could take down the Executor class Star Destroyer, however circumstantial it may be. Well, without further ado, let's begin. As per usual, we start out with the general things, basic info, and a little bit of history behind these two legendary ships. The MC80 Home 1 type Star Cruiser was a ship that in the beginning was built by the Mon Calamari above the planet of Mon Calamari, or as it was named in their native tongue, DAC, spelled D-A-C. The MC80 Home 1 type of ship was between 1,200 and 1,400 meters long. However, due to every ship being unique, they were varying in size, at least a little bit. Hence why they're stated to be between 1,200 and 1,400 meters long. 1,400 meters is just short of a mile, that is 1,600 meters in length. The MC80 Home 1 types were built for deep space exploration and research, and when Darth Sidious discovered the Mon Calamari ships and realized that they posed an actual threat to the Imperial class Star Destroyers and Victory class Star Destroyers, Darth Sidious sent an Imperial fleet to suppress the Mon Calamari and keep their ships in docks to neutralize the threat. Later, the plan backfired and the Mon Calamari ships were refitted into becoming warships fighting for the Alliance to restore the Republic, aka the Rebel Alliance, as it was mostly referred to as. The ships continued to serve far into the years of the New Republic under Admiral Gial Akbar as his chosen class of flak and command ship, until he switched it out with the much stronger Defiance of the MC90 class. The Home 1 and her sisters formed a uniform design type. Cylindrical hulls with a tapered bow, hangar base amidships, and a bulbous stern mounting 10 huge sublight thrusters. 4 M8.0 Star Drive main thrusters, and 6 M4.5 Star Drive maneuvering engines. The Home 1 was not just something that could be upgraded by anyone. This ship often caused a major headache for Rebel technicians and engineers, as no single MC80 class of ship was identical to the next, including the MC80 Liberty type, MC80 Wingless type, MC80B type, and more. So, Rebel crews had to be specifically assigned to one MC80 ship, as otherwise some things would malfunction if they began tampering with something. Usually though, most of the technicians and engineers were of Mon Calamari descent, but it wasn't unusual for other species than humans to be part of the MC ship's crews. The ships also varied in size, which I'll get to in the next section, as well as I mentioned above. The Home 1 type had a crew of 5,402 members, including 78 gunners. However, a skeletal crew of 1,230 could manage the Home 1 if necessary. Also, it carried 1,200 passengers, 20,000 tons worth of cargo, and 2 years worth of consumables. The Imperial 1 class Star Destroyer was the ship that shortly after the Clone Wars formed the backbone of the massive fleet of the Galactic Empire. This class of ship was mainly built at Kuat, but also at sub-companies under the Kuat drive yards. Imperial Class 1 Star Destroyers was 1,600 meters long, 1 mile if you're in doubt. And unlike the Home 1, who wasn't refitted into becoming a very powerful warship after time, the Imperial Class 1 Star Destroyer was built for war. It was literally the only purpose it had. It was built for capital ship-to-ship combat and was feared all over the galaxy. Whenever one of these massive beasts were in orbit, you knew the Empire meant serious business. Imperial-class Star Destroyers were very simply built. They all followed the same line of construction and every single ship was the same as the other. Again, unlike MC80 types, who were all individual. So were the Star Destroyers, but that's only by name. Otherwise, if you've seen one Imperial-class Star Destroyer, you've seen them all. Not taking the newer, much stronger Imperial 2-class Star Destroyers into account here. It was capable of holding entire planets suppressed, as there was next to nothing that could actually match the full power of a Star Destroyer, let alone the full capacity of the Imperial fleet. The wedge-shaped design of the Imperial-class Star Destroyers led to them being perfect for head-on engagements, and also made them great for broadside attacks, but more on that in a later section. A single Imperial 1-class Star Destroyer had 27,850 enlisted personnel, excluding the 9,235 officers, but including 275 gunners. It also had 9,700 stormtroopers and carried 20 AT-AT walkers and 30 AT-ST walkers, and one prefabricated base, plus consumables for 6 years, as well as having the carrying capacity of 36,000 metric tons of goods. The Imperial 1-class Star Destroyer had a price tag of 150 million credits per ship. That was 25 million more than a Providence-class cruiser and almost 3 times the price of a Venator-class, costing 37 million per ship. When it comes to which ship is the most effective in a single battle, then I really find it hard to give either the edge. However, the ISD or Imperial Star Destroyer does have more troops on board and is in general ready for whenever a planet has to be conquered. However, unlike the Home 1, this ship cannot land on either land area on a planet or on water, so there is a huge minus there. What is also a huge minus for the ISD is the fact that it takes a lot more personnel to operate it properly, which is a huge letdown over the Home 1. Then again, the Imperial Star Destroyer can, unlike the Home 1, take over an entire planet. However, weighing up the pros and cons, I really cannot tell who should have this round. So in general terms and aspects, I declare these two ships equals. Now we'll compare these two ships in speed and maneuvering. The MC80 Home 1 type of ships were the mainstay of the Rebel Alliance fleet, and that was saying something. After they were refitted for war, they were capable of going head-to-head with Imperial-class Star Destroyers, hence why Darth Sidious feared the potential of these ships turning into threats should they fall into the wrong hands, or right hands, depending on your point of view. First, the Empire tried to convert the ships into being usable for human crews, but the Mon Calamari did everything in their power to sabotage any Imperial plans with these ships, hence why the Empire decided to block the planet of Mon Calamari altogether. The MC80 classes of ships were all the way through made to be handled by Mon Calamari personnel, at least when it came to officers' positions and such. They were capable of flying with about 2700 g per maximum acceleration and could fly about 950 kilometers per hour in atmosphere. The reason for this is that while it is not exactly stated by my main source, I have seen it from my main source in the past. And also, because the Home 1 has a Class 1 hyperdrive and a Class 9 backup. For its size, the Home 1 type was very maneuverable, with about 60% of its engine power being diverted towards its maneuvering engines. That would make the ship vastly more maneuverable than any Imperial-class Star Destroyer. The Imperial 1-class Star Destroyer was much bigger and vastly more massive in both length, width, and depth. So, in total, they would seem to be much slower than the MC80s, right? Well, actually, don't be so sure, my young Padawans. Due to having a Class 2 hyperdrive, which I'm thinking would be stretched to the absolute limit considering the very small difference between this one and the one on the Home 1 type, it could per maximum acceleration reach a fair speed of 2,300 Gs, 400 Gs of difference. It had 7 engine units in total, 3 enormous main ion engine units and 4 smaller ion engine units only used for emergencies. It also had a Class 8 backup hyperdrive, which was actually fairly good for a backup. The home one had a Class 9 backup. Normally, backup hyperdrives were around Class 10 or even further out on the scale. It was capable of reaching 975 km per hour in atmosphere, so not bad at all either for a ship its size. It was actually slightly faster than the Home 1 on that front with 25 km per hour, and while that isn't really much, it is still a plus in the direction of the Imperial Star Destroyer. Now, with all of that said, the Imperial class Star Destroyers in general were not very maneuverable, as you can see in Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, where several of the ships were hunting the Millennium Falcon, and they were trying to avoid colliding with each other. However, it was ultimately too late. So, in general, when we're talking about speed and maneuverability, I find it fairly clear which one has the advantage. Although the ISD, or Imperial Star Destroyer, is slightly faster in the atmosphere, it is only with 25 km per hour, which in a contest like this is basically nothing. And with the MC80 class of ship being pretty maneuverable in general, then I doubt that there's much the ISD can do to weigh up the pros and cons in its favor. So, in terms of speed and maneuvering, I will give the MC80 Home 1 type the edge. And now, finally time for their offensive and defensive capabilities. The Home 1 was armed with 36 turbo lasers and 36 heavy ion cannons, and 6 tractor beam projectors, as well as having a hangar space for an average of 120 fighters of the various A, B, X, and Y wings. Later, in times of the New Republic, it would also carry E-wings, K-wings, and more. All of those fighters were better than anything the Imperial had available, as well as the pilots often being of superior skills to those of the Empire, with the exception of the pilots flying the TIE Defenders. However, direct numbers are not specified when it comes to the Rebel fighters, but I think it is safe to say that since the X-Wings were the mainstay in the Rebel Alliance fighters, they were also highly and mostly represented in the hangars of the Home 1 type of ships. Now, this next thing may actually be surprising to some, but please let me elaborate. The Home 1 type of ship does not have any normal laser cannons, nor does it have any point defense cannons. So you may wonder, how does it shoot down enemy fighters should it in fact be swarmed? Turbo lasers are normally really bad at targeting fighters and bombers due to their blasts going through space fairly slowly. But the Mon Calamari ships in general were undergunned compared to the ships of the Empire. So they had to resort to other ways to take down Imperial ships. But how? They had top-notch, superior targeting systems, even with turbo lasers being capable of shooting down fighters with the same precision as that of point defense cannons. Well, almost at least. Another typical thing for the Mon Calamari ships were their outstanding and vastly superior shielding capabilities. They were beyond anything that the Empire had, with several layers plus backup shielding. Mon Calamari ships in general were huge flying punching bags. They could take direct punches to the chin and give them back in full force. Another reason why Sidious feared the potential of these ships, and he really did have a good reason to, as the Battle of Endor solidified his concerns. When the ships were refitted from space exploration to warships, their hulls were strengthened tenfold, and so they were even capable of taking the hits, should the shields, however unlikely, be taken down. Hull upgrades, weapons emplacements, and shield upgrades were all fitted to the MC80 Home 1 along with all the other MC class of ships to make these real viable threats to the Empire, and they could have barely done any better. The ISD, or Imperial Star Destroyer, was an entirely different matter altogether. It had 60 heavy turbo lasers and 60 heavy ion cannons, as well as 10 tractor beam projectors. These weapons were built for war, with only one purpose: destroy any enemy to the Empire and ensure that the Empire will forever be the dominant power in the galaxy. These weapons, whenever they met an enemy who were inferior, would completely be ripped apart, no questions asked. The Imperial-class Star Destroyer was built for war and aggressive negotiations, with a complement of 72 various TIE models consisting of 6 squadrons of 12 fighters in each. These TIEs were, however, far inferior to the fighters of the Rebel Alliance, and once an Imperial Star Destroyer had lost its fighters, it was a sitting duck. Surprisingly, it had no point defense systems, and neither did it have a good targeting system compared to that of the Home 1 type. However, something that the ISD, or Imperial Star Destroyer, did have, perhaps even more so than the Home 1 type, was a very strong hull armor. As you can imagine, when a ship's only purpose is warfare, then the hull is bound to be incredibly strong, even if its shields should be taken down. These shields, however, did not, unlike most other ships, cover all of the ship at the same time. The shield on the Imperial 1 class Star Destroyer could be directed towards any part of the ship that needed protection, mainly the enormous bridge tower and hangar area, as well as engine thrusters. The shields were produced by the 2 sphere-like domes on top of the bridge tower on each side. In Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, you see a couple of A-Wings destroy such a shield dome on the Executor-class Star Destroyer. Also, an Imperial class does have its limits. One of them we saw in Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, where that an Imperial Star Destroyer was flying through an asteroid field, and then a massive asteroid hit the bridge tower and the ship was destroyed. You could see the commanding officer on the hologram disappearing. However, to almost everything that is not a fighter, a bomber, or of equal power to the Imperial Star Destroyer, the Imperial Star Destroyer would no doubt destroy everything it met. So, in total, when it comes to the offensive and defensive capabilities of these ships, I'd say that they are, in a way, fairly equal. While the Home 1 doesn't have the same amount of weapons, nor the same power behind each blast, it does have much better precision and can hit the weaker spots on a Star Destroyer, as well as having much better shields, however slightly inferior hull armor. While the ISD is almost twice as strong when considering the amount of armament, it is much less precise, but then again, it doesn't need to be. It also has slightly stronger hull armor, but the shields are vastly inferior to that of the opponent. So, in the end, I fail to be able to grant the edge to either of these ships, as they're simply too equal in that regard. So, as you can probably guess by now, these two ships will once again be declared as equals in the offensive and defensive capabilities category. Now, time for the verdict. Both these ships are immensely powerful, and I'm not just saying that because these are pretty much arch rivals. No, I'm saying it because it's a fact, and where one lacks something, the other one has it. And this is definitely a very difficult verdict to conclude, however, one must win this contest. So, we will, as usual, put them up against each other. Both ships have empty hangars because my version of versus videos solely focus on the ships themselves, as we are all aware that a ship can be immensely powerful, but when fighters and bombers are included, the tables can be turned in an instant, which is no fun. So, both the commanding officers will be of equal levels of competence, and both ships will be dropped in cold. And in this case, let's make a what-if scenario. This what-if will be set above Tatooine, as the Tantive 4 will try to escape the ISD over Tatooine with the Death Star plans. In this case, the Tantive 4 will have sent a distress call, and an MC80 Home 1 type answers the call, and the commanding officer rushes to intercept the ISD before it catches the Tantive 4 in its tractor beam. So, in space above Tatooine, the Home 1 comes out of hyperspace and is caught by the tractor beam, which allows the Tantive 4 to jump to light speed. And as if the Home 1 is caught by the tractor beam, the ISD has to act like a counterweight, and so it gives a very heavy tug on the Star Destroyer as well. As this happens, the commander of the Home 1 runs a diagnostic of the ISD, and so does the commanding officer on the bridge of the ISD about the Home 1. With that said, the Imperial-class Star Destroyer and Home 1 are both at perfect broadside positions, opposite of each other, and both open fire to the fullest of their capabilities. The Home 1 is shooting all that it can with both its armament of turbolasers and ion cannons at the bridge tower of the Imperial-class Star Destroyer. The ISD, on the other hand, is just slugging it out at the Home 1, blasting it everywhere possible with its many turbolasers and ion cannons. Eventually, though, the Home 1 accelerates and stops firing and focuses on keeping its shields intact. The commanding officer on the Home 1 knows that he can't possibly sustain the full firepower of the Imperial Star Destroyer if their shields are taken down. So, when the Home 1 stops shooting, it can direct more power to its shield, and so it does while having accelerated and hoping to circle and eventually outflank the Imperial Star Destroyer. The commanding officer on the Imperial Star Destroyer quickly catches on to what the Home 1 commander is trying to do, and with both ships only slightly bruised, if even bruised at all, this battle is far from over. The Imperial Star Destroyer commander then gives the order to keep the Home 1 in front of them, in order to be able to bring the full firepower of the Imperial Star Destroyer to bear. However, the Home 1 is slightly faster and slowly manages to get around the Imperial Star Destroyer, since it isn't maneuverable enough to keep up with the spin, even when it has also stopped firing in order to put the excess energy somewhere else. As the Home 1 manages to get far enough behind the Imperial Star Destroyer to get a good angle at the flanks, it opens fire. However, this reduces its speed, and so the Imperial Star Destroyer manages to keep up and slowly turn itself back towards the Home 1. At this point, the Home 1 will have turned in a way so that the full power of the ship's weapons can come to bear, and then it fires as much as it possibly can, because if they keep up running around each other, the fight will never end. And as the Imperial-class Star Destroyer has taken some great hits, and its shields are almost gone, it can finally front face the Home 1, bringing its full firepower to bear. However, because the Imperial Star Destroyer has already sustained heavy damage to its shields, it is limited as to how much it can still take. But, since both ships are frontally facing each other, the Imperial Star Destroyer has unleashed its full power upon the Home 1. And so, the Home 1 takes massive damage. However, since its shields have been nearly fully recharged, it can take some more punishment. But still, the full firepower of the ISD takes the shield away faster than the Home 1 can regenerate it, while also using a lot of energy on firing back. But the Home 1 scores a hit on one of the shield domes, and the dome blows up. By then, the Home 1 is close to losing its shields too, but the Imperial Star Destroyer basically has nothing left. So with that, the Home 1 loses its shields and takes some serious damage to the hull while still firing all that it can. In the end, the superb accuracy of the Home 1 that keeps shooting at the bridge tower on the Imperial Star Destroyer is what eventually makes the Imperial Star Destroyer tower blow up, and in the end wins the day. This victory, however, will not come at a light cost to the Home 1, and it will be severely damaged and will take a very long time to repair. In the end, however, the ISD or Imperial Star Destroyer cannot defeat the MC80 Home 1 type, and so it loses this battle, however close it may be. But you all know the result, though I am gonna say it anyway. The Home 1 type ends up being the victor of this battle. Now, remember everyone that this is purely how I think this battle would play out. If you agree with me, that's great. If you don't, that's great. Please tell me why you don't agree, and I love having a debate with you all in the comment section below. Please let me know what you think about this video. Don't forget to leave video suggestions in the comment section as well. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you will of course use your hatred to fry that like button on this video with your purest forms of force lightning, and use your anger to choke that subscribe button using the power in the arts of force-based strangulation techniques. It was a pleasure to entertain you all once again, and I'll see you in the next one. May the force be with you always.